Peace. What is up, everybody? I am OnenO. Welcome back to the blog. And once again, just want to launch into another video, open dialogue, and more of a philosophical conversation today. And the conversation is going to center around the topic of, do I have a soul? Believe it or not, here we are in the year 2017, and the conversation is still up for debate as to whether or not the soul exists, not just within human beings, but within nature herself. And the conversation is ancient. There is, in the traditional dualistic view, there's the two sides, where one side can see only through the lens that there is only material here upon the planet and no such thing as a soul or consciousness. And then there is a diametrically opposed viewpoint or person or soul, you might say, who understands that there is such thing called a soul and therefore sees every single aspect of that which you perceive with spirit. They're two apparently different viewpoints, and yet what do we see when we actually gaze upon reality itself? What evidence do we discover? From a philosopher's point of view, the science is to take the world around you and to simply observe it and then to make sense of it somehow with each other through dialogue, through questioning, through answering, through testing, hypothesis, and ultimately coming to a conclusion that everybody can agree upon. And so what is this agreement that this group of people that believe in the existence of the soul have agreed upon? They simply went down the question and answer path of looking at nature itself and found that nature itself is fundamentally an illusion of perception. Nature itself is 99% space. And if nature is not as concrete as we assume it to be, if nature, meaning everything from this chair to this body to that barn to those trees to this cement to the house, everything around me, that's what I'm calling nature. If all of nature is made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of 99% space, then that means that all the material around me could fit probably into the space of one little speck of sand on my finger. So I perceive something that I assume to be hard, rigid, and dead material. But in fact, it's just an illusion. But now this is where the human ego begins to freak out, because the human ego then says, okay, well, if this is an illusion, you're saying everything is an illusion. And this is where, to get back to the philosophical conversation about the soul, this is where the soul comes in. Because now let's jump to quantum science. Quantum science has discovered that these atoms, which are 99% space, that basically all particles in existence that are based on light becomes particles of material, but light itself is a particle. The photon of light itself is a particle. And in studying these particles of light, quantum science has discovered that they behave in two separate ways. They behave in one way as a wave and in another way as a particle. Now, in truth, they are always behaving as both, constantly. But for the purposes of this philosophical conversation on the soul, how does these atoms, which are 99% space, become something as hard and as rigid as material. And what is the mechanism that makes them change from an infinite wave of probability into one thing, like a baseball? What takes the infinite wave of probability and turns it into one thing, like a watermelon? What is it that takes this infinite wave of probable anythings I could imagine and takes it into one form, like an elephant? What is that thing that's doing that? That's the soul. And this is where science, classically speaking, I'm talking thousands of years ago, this is where science became spiritual. And then spirituality had a type of understanding that would cross between the hemispheres of the brain. The left hemisphere could understand spirit from the scientific, and the right could understand spirit through the feeling and intuition. And the truth is, we here in 2017, let's bring it back to today, we're going through a period of time where we have been indoctrinated, speaking about society, not necessarily myself, I was homeschooled, that's why. Through the schooling system, we have been indoctrinated into living only in our left brain. And this is why I'm so grateful that I had a childhood of being a musician, because I had, not only was my right brain being constantly activated and utilized through musical learning, but both sides of your hemisphere are being used whenever you play a musical instrument. Among many other activities, any activity that utilizes both hemispheres of the brain will bring you mental coherence. And now here's the amazing byproduct of mental coherence and why I love meditation so much. When you are in mental coherence, you are in a state of meditation. There is no thought, there is only pure focus and flow with the moment at hand. You are incredibly alert and aware, and yet there is no ripples of chaos in the internal space. And that's what it feels like to be mentally coherent, and that's what the goal of meditation is designed to bring into your experience. So how is it then that we are still here in the year 2017 and people are still in debate about this question of the soul? How is that even possible? Now see, here's an amazing fact I don't hear a lot of people talking about from this perspective. And this is the subject of Jesus. And Jesus, let's say 2017 years ago, what was he up against and what was he actually communicating with at the time? He was up against the Roman Empire, and he himself was born into the line of the Hebrews. And he reached a certain point in his journey where his connection with Source, with God, became, or it just always was, so intact that as he grew as a human being, he was able to communicate from his deepest soul level the truths of spirit. And at that time, believe it or not, this is a very important fact. It was considered blasphemy by the state, aka the Roman Empire, to label yourself as a divine, God-made being. And it was such a crime against the Roman Empire that it was punishable by death. And it was considered blaspheme to call yourself divine in any way and to claim that you have a soul is bordering on the profane according to this time period that I'm talking about. And so when Jesus came along, much like Martin Luther King could understand that his words were going to create turmoil and potentially, he could potentially experience the hatred of some people because of the amount of love that he is bringing to the table, the same thing happened for Jesus Christ 2017 years ago. And it had such a powerful, energetic shift in the consciousness of human beings that this is why we say Jesus forgave all sins. Because now, as of our timeline in 2017, it's not considered a crime against the state punishable by death to claim, to know, to fully embody, I am a divine soul. I am made in the image of God. I am made in the image of Spirit, and all things that come from within me and out through me come from the Spirit. That I, this material body, will come and go, but I, the Spirit, am eternal and have been here forever, will be here forever, will go on and on and on, because that is my identity with my Heavenly Father. You see? I, the soul, moving through the physical. I was born into this body. I've been living on this planet for 30 years. I will have many more years upon this planet. There will come a day where I will no longer be in this form. In fact, in the very next video that you watch, I will not even be in this form, because I will have changed between now and then. I shift. My now moment is constantly shifting, but I, the soul, which is experiencing the constant shifting, am the never-changing source. I am that never-changing source. The eternally still Spirit that moves through all things material, not just the physical body. All spirit. Everything that you can see around me is made up of spirit, because it is spirit that collapses the infinite wave of probability into something solid. And now, how can you interact with spirit? The only reason I do this is because of what I'm about to say. You interact with spirit through your thoughts, meaning that there is never a moment that you are not interacting with spirit. You are always 24/7, constantly communicating with spirit. And you will know the quality of your connection with spirit based on the quality of your thoughts that you are able to perceive, because you are a magnet. And you attract thoughts into your magnetic space. And in your mind space, you attract in these thoughts and you perceive them. And if they are dark and unsavory, it is because you, as an energetic being, have lost touch with the source of coherence and the source of peace. Because that source, when you elevate your frequency to that level and you become coherent, then the thoughts that get magnetically attracted into your life and into your mind become incredibly more cohesive and peaceful, because that is what you're making. And in making it, you experience it. So, the existence of the Spirit has been something that has divided society for a long time. And this is because society can only function as a control mechanism if the existence of spirit is denied. Because as soon as spirit becomes accepted on a governmental level, then how can government ever control a spirit? Because the spirit is the ultimate truth, the fabric, the fundamental nature of reality. So how could a government ever control a spirit? And the truth is, they cannot. The truth is, Jesus, in 2,000 years ago, the battle that he fought for all of us, that we are now living in the aftermath of, was that battle. Was the battle, was the challenging of the state from a spiritual perspective, because he said to all of the people that he knew, He told them exactly what was going to happen, and they all knew exactly what was going to happen. If you claim to be made in the image of God, that you are the Son of God, Spirit made manifest, divine child of the Heavenly Father, which you are and I am, if you claimed that, if you said that in public, and you were not the Pope, then you would be punished, and you would be punished by death. And Jesus died because he claimed that. And it was the truth. And that's what changed everything, because a man claimed the truth, which is that he is a divine spirit, and he was murdered for it by a government that was so oppressive that this one action destroyed their entire lineage. And they lost their Roman Empire because of this moment in history. Why else do you think that we continuously mark our time back to this point where society collapsed? And this is what happened when society collapsed. It was the remembrance of the Spirit and the inability for the government to control a spirit. And now here we are, 2017 years later, and luckily, in part of the world known as America, through a bunch of fighting and messed up storylines, at least what is present in this reality is the ability to openly say to your brothers and sisters, I remember that I am a spirit. I know that I am a spirit, and I know that you are a spirit too. And I know that therefore I am eternal, and I know that you are too. And I know that we take on these bodily forms when we come into this place to play the game called life. But it's nothing more than a game, and it should be enjoyed, and it should be loved, and we should laugh as often as possible. Because there will be a day where we join each other in spiritual form once again. And we will, if we weren't able to laugh here, we'll be able to laugh there. And we'll see each other in truth. We won't see each other as these crude physical forms anymore. I had to get that out. I was sitting and meditating upstairs, and this whole subject, like a big, huge ball, just popped into my mind, and I had to get it on camera for you because I just want to share this stuff with you. I like talking about this kind of stuff. I'm fascinated with the fact that we are all divine beings, and yet we have been taught from birth by society that we are crude animals, dead matter with no spirit. Look into my eyes and tell me that I don't have spirit. If you can do that, and if I believe you, then we'll talk. But there is a truth within me that can never be shaken. And I know that the moment you look into my eyes, you will see such deep love and truth in spirit that you will be changed. Because you see, the mind of chaos is the mind of separation. And love is what reconciles the destructive force of chaos. And love is the truth and the fabric of reality. So all chaos, in the end, becomes reconciled through the power of love. And that's how you know that you are elevating. That's how you know that you are reaching the end, because you're reaching the end of duality. You're reaching the end of separation. You're not reaching the end of existence. You're reaching the end of the illusion. And the illusion is that existence could somehow vanish. And it cannot, my friend. And that's where we wrap it up. Thanks for supporting me here on YouTube. Please like the video and share with a friend. Hit the subscribe button if you like what I do here, if you like what I talk about. And very soon I'm going to be launching a Patreon channel, so you can go over there and support me. But in the meantime, check out my website at iamoneno.com. And until I see you again along the journey, oneness in sound, I am OnenO. Peace out, y'all.